Hello, I'm Louis Efron, and I write and speak about purpose, people, and leadership around the globe. And today on Dov Baron's show, we're going to be talking about Beyond the Ink, my new book about Mario Barth, the transformation of an industry. So please stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy it.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty interview series. I'm your host, Dov Baron, founder of Full Monty Leadership, and I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness so that you can reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. Today, we're going to be taking an insider look at the new class of leader, who they are, and how they're changing the face of business. If you're a new viewer, new listener, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. Remember, you can find us not only on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're also out there on Roku. You can find us on Roku TV on a channel there. Just search out Dov Baron's Leadership with over 100,000 followers. We're also now on traditional radio stations across the United States on AM and FM, ranging from Las Vegas to Philadelphia. We're all across the board there in the United States, so please make sure you check us out every Monday and Thursday across the U.S. And remember, we always need your help in staying relevant, so please get yourself over to iTunes or Spotify, rate, review, and subscribe to the show, because we're very grateful to be voted the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 listeners globally. So we really appreciate that. And of course, we're very grateful to Inc.com for making us the #1 podcast to make you a better leader, with a potential reach of 2.5 to 4 million listeners for every single show. And also, you can catch us on Google Home and Alexa by simply saying, "Play Dov Baron Podcast." Thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. As a leader, whether you're a CEO, someone in the C-suite, sales leader, entrepreneurial leader, a leader in any capacity, one of the major ways the world of business has changed is because of the democratization of innovation and access. Businesses that were once fringed are stepping into the mainstream, taking business out of the boardroom and onto the streets. But can you move a back alley business into the mainstream? Can your business appeal to a brand new audience? Well, stay tuned, because you're about to find out. Our guest is a returning champion, Louis Efron. Louis Efron is a globally recognized thought leader, speaker, writer for Fortune 200 HR executives. He is a contributing writer for Forbes, Huffington Post, the founder of a charity, World Child Cancer USA. His career credits include head of global employee engagement for Tesla Motors. You may have heard of them. He's also the author of How to Find a Job, Career, and Life You Love, and the fabulous, one of my favorite books of all time, Purpose Meets Execution. He's also the author of a brand new book called Beyond the Ink. Beyond the Ink. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome Louis Efron.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. That was your Red Rock welcome.
That was remarkable.
As the warm-up act for you two, you're there. This is you, my man.
I love it. Thank you, Dov. Great to be here.
You're welcome, mate. It's great to have you here. So, as I said, you're the returning champion. You've been on the show before when we talked about your previous book, which I absolutely loved, which is Purpose and Execution. It was a great book. I read it actually a couple of times. I actually still have it by the bed. And we exchanged books because we both read about purpose. And I read your book and you read mine, and we both said the same thing. I could have written your book. You could have written my book. It was very, we were very much in the same frame and deep belief about the importance of purpose. This new book seems to be uh, a move away from the traditional way of which you would write. Beyond the Ink, this is a book about Mario Barth and his lessons from transformation of an industry. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about the book and why you got involved in this, which seems like such a deviation, and I'm sure it's not, but it seems like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's not at all, because this gentleman, Mario Barth, is a remarkable purpose-driven leader and businessman. And actually, the way it came about was sort of funny. I get a lot of emails and things from press agents, which you probably do as well, to write about their clients. And I got, maybe about a year and a half ago, an email from a press agent for Mario Barth, who is a basically tattoo tycoon. He does a lot of the big, huge celebrities around the globe from a tattoo perspective, tattoo artist, but he also manufactures and produces a good portion of the ink that goes into the industry. So I saw this email and I thought that would be pretty cool to write a story about him. It's quite colorful, and despite not having a million tattoos on my body, I have one small one I got many, many years ago, but I've always been fascinated by the art of it and the industry. So I met with him in Vegas and we had a great interview, and I wrote this article in Forbes about him. And as I was writing, I realized that this man has basically taken a back alley industry and his purpose to bring the art forward to the masses and create this multi-million-dollar industry and become very, very successful, not only as a tattoo artist himself, but as a businessman with locations around the US and around the globe. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, I said, well, it'd be fascinating to dig in deeper on this in a book and talk about how you've transformed this back alley industry and brought it forward. And he goes, I love the idea. So we started working on it, and the book's getting ready to come out. We've been working on it for a little over a year now. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's fascinating because, as you said, I mean, certainly I was saying this to my wife yesterday. We were out walking around and just by the beach and noticing how many people have tattoos, and it was very much a fringe thing when I was in my 20s and even in my 30s. It was still fairly fringe, but now as we are in 2018, as we record this, it's very common. It's, and it's very, you see it on people you would not imagine to see it on, who have tattoos and a lot of tattoos, like you said, not just one little one. Yeah. In your writing of this book, did Mario talk to you about that changing face of the acceptance of tattoos?
Yeah, absolutely. Tattoos is interesting. As I was writing and researching, first of all, it reports about $50 billion global business. It's huge, right? But it's happening all over the place with blacked out windows and alleys here and there. But the fact of the matter, tattoos have been around since Neolithic times. It just never had been really sort of put together in a corporate framework. No. And but when you look around, like you said, and as I've been writing this book, I've been looking around more and more, you see people everywhere, right? There's tattoos all over the place, whether it be a couple or many, and people that get one usually get more. So it's a quite substantial industry, and it's always been there. I mean, all throughout the world, it's always been there. It just has never been sort of, like I said, put in sort of bookend by a corporate process. And that's what Mario sort of brought to it. And there's been a lot of stigma around it, obviously, from a health and safety perspective. He's addressed that, which we have written about in the book. Everything that you would expect in let's say, a corporate medical business, right? A big time Fortune 500 medical business. He's basically applied those tools and everything from retail marketing to how he promotes his business. He basically took it and just added it to this building. He took it to this industry. He took away the black windows. He brought the clients up frontward so people can see what's going on, to bring transparency. He developed his stores in these fishbowl sort of concepts where people can feel comfortable walking in because there's a way in and a way out. So it's not just like you don't feel trapped in there. So all these psychological sort of elements and business practices that he put in just transformed and took someone who, a lot of tattoo artists that have very, very little money and working like on cash business. This guy has become a huge success, drives a Lamborghini, and has a 2-year waiting list to be tattooed by. Quite remarkable, and produces the safest quality ink in the industry. with all sorts of safety product features within it.
It's amazing. You said something in there that is very interesting to me, is how this has moved from a back alley thing to, I mean, you and I talked about this on our previous episode. We talked about the need for transparency in business and how important that transparency is. And what's really interesting is that some industries are by nature the opposite of transparent, meaning, as you said, back alley, blacked out windows, cash under the table, tattoos, you kind of hide it. And then to change that to being something, where people are actually openly showing that they're having the tattoos or watching it get done, you can walk in involved in it. I mean, I think about the cooking world, and I think about how when I was a kid, you'd watch cooking shows and it was very formal, and then you got things like The Naked Chef and all that changed. And then on top of that, you got the, what was it? I went to a restaurant and the chef called it kitchen drama, where chefs were cooking and you get to see all that. And that seems to be what's happened here with the tattoo world. Is that a fair sort of understanding of it?
Absolutely. Mario's first big tattoo shop that sort of transforming the industry was in Las Vegas. So he has if you've ever been to Las Vegas and you traveled there, it's a Starlight Tattoos, which is one of his big brands within Mandalay Bay and Mirage. And you walk there, it is a glass, like a fishbowl, very brightly lit, beautiful, artistic store that has really streamlined layouts in the store, art everywhere, beautiful music. All the clients I mentioned are sort of out front. And this particular studio, these studios are close to $2 million studios. So in the past, people would rent a back room somewhere for $100 a month, right? Yeah. Black out the windows, put a little chair in there and tattoo. So this guy sold this concept of creating a multi-million-dollar studio, which you now see popping up all over the place. And when I was living in Arizona recently, there was at the Harley shop, there was this sort of fishbowl glass tattoo shop hung sort of above the Harley sales floor. But those type of things never existed before Mario started sort of pushing the envelope on this. And he was fought a lot by the industry of people that didn't want to be out in front because there was such a public stigma about it. So there was a lot of stress over, do we bring this industry forward? And he wanted to be, just like you said, fully transparent. His purpose was to bring this forward, make it commercial, let people see the beautiful art around this and how safe it could be, involving the FDA and other government bodies that the tattoo industry before was scared to death of, right? They didn't want anybody in there. But he went in there and he made safety caps for the bottles when he produces it. He made sure that there was tracking numbers and lots and serial numbers behind everything he was producing, so you can track if there was ever any issue. So everything, like I said, you would see in a medical product, he created that environment, a very clean, open, transparent environment. It's attracted more and more new customers because he's educating people on the process, not only his talent, his artists, but also the clientele that come in. So people that may have interest in it, that were scared of it, he's educating them as well. So a lot of his thrust and a lot of his purpose around this transformation has been centered around education of this industry, which, like I said, has always been around, but just been a little shifty at times.
So that brings me to the natural question, which is why? I mean, is Mario just naturally a corporate head? Is that who he is naturally? I mean, if you take away the skin, if you take away the tattoos, if you take away the look, I mean, is this guy just a very smart business guy? And if he'd have gone into cooking, he would have done that. If he'd have gone into manufacturing, he would have done it there. If he'd have gone into another industry, he would have done it. Because, this seems like such a misaligned corporate business. And he's done it very, very well.
The cool thing about Mario and what connected with me with him so much, and you know this in my background, I come from an artistic background for many years in the arts as a director myself and writer and all that type of stuff. So I was connected with him as an artist. He is an artist at heart. He's won more awards than anybody in the entire industry all over the place. And his goal was always to be an artist. And that's why he still tattoos on a regular basis. His goal was to basically make a better world for his artists and for people that love tattooing as an art. The interesting thing is the business side was sort of second. He has an amazing natural gut. I write about this in the book, that he trusts his gut instincts, but he struggled initially. His father was a business owner. He never really adopted it early. As he was building his business, he had his ups and downs, things that worked, things that didn't work. He ended up interfacing with Tony Robbins. And he had this just sort of by accident. He was at a conference. He saw Tony presenting. He stood in the back and started going through some of his programs. And through a partnership, Tony sort of enlightened him to some of his natural internal talents and his ability to see business opportunities. And he sort of combined it. But I think you're right. I think he would have done it in any industry. But he has a deep, passionate love for tattooing. 75% of his body is covered in tattoos. His son did a tattoo on him, his young son. He tries all his products on him first. He loves it, and his goal was to make a safer, cleaner environment for people that love this industry, and give also tattoo artists a chance to have families and 401ks and have a career in the industry. So, and have health benefits. I mean, just remarkable. But his thrust, and that's why this is such a purpose-driven book, and right in line with everything I write about, because he is one of the most remarkable purpose leaders I've ever met, because that's his focus. He's an artist that wants to make a world of more beautiful art, and he created this business around it to do that. But that's where his essence is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about, which is his purpose. Because you and I are both very purpose-driven. And we help other companies and individuals find their purpose. So when you did that first interview with him, what stood out about his purpose?
Yeah, I think you could just sense, people that live a purpose-driven life, you can see the passion that oozes from them, And when I first met with him, you can just see how proud he was of what he built, and his studio location. We met out at the Starlight over in Mandalay Bay, the Starlight Tattoo parlor there. And you can just see his connection to his people, first of all, when he walked in the store. There was a purpose-driven environment. And when you walk in a business, as you probably well know, you can feel it in the air. I instantly felt it in the air. I instantly felt that passion coming in him. Everything he was saying and talking about was connected to that purpose. I mean, everything went back. Everything we talked about financially, from a P&L perspective, from benefits, all the stuff, all tied back to creating better lives for people in his industry that he loves. And that's why my hour with him initially, or my 2 hours, whatever I sat with him initially, was so inspiring and so uplifting from a purpose perspective. I was like, this is such a unique situation, because it's not only a colorful industry and colorful story, but here's a guy that is just purpose-driven beyond, and it just gives me a chance to write something more about purpose in a very different light. Yeah,
in a very different way. It's interesting, because what I found fascinating about it was that, I've known lots of people who have tattoos, and I've actually known people who are tattoo artists. And it's kind of, it's not something you brag about, because, as you said, it's kind of been made shady. But to have somebody create a business, whereas there is a 401k, there is health benefits, there is taking care. I mean, when you and I talk about building a corporate culture, we're talking about people being driven by the purpose, but in that purpose in and of itself is designed to hold, to embrace, to nurture the people inside of the culture. And that in and of itself is not something one would associate traditionally with a tattoo parlor. We kind of think of it as, these are the rough guys who are, if you get a couple of extra beers, bonus,
Yeah, it's funny. He told me directly, I have a quote in the book. I mean, he said he was really pained by what was going on in the industry and the people, to your point, that did not want to share what they did for a career. He was pained by it because he loves it. He's so proud of it. He sees it as beautiful art, which it is. And he wanted to make sure other people had that opportunity. And one of his other thrusts was to also lead by example. So he wanted to become very successful and stable and financially successful in his industry as a role model for other people that want to do this and that have put in their heads down sort of in shame around what they do. And that was another remarkable social element to his leadership here, is he wanted people to be proud and hold their head up and drive nice cars and own houses and have kids and not have to worry about their health benefits. That's all things that he really wanted. And that was his focus. And that's why he put these things in. So it wasn't like a business guy saying, oh, we got to do benefits because that's the way we attract talent. We want to give people benefits because we want them to be able to take care of their health when they have it, so they continue tattooing or have sort of still spend their whole career in the tattoo industry and be able to retire and be able to afford things that they want. And not see it as an industry of shame. And that's what he's been able to do.
Yeah, it's very cool. You know, you and I had talked about in a previous, I mean, you know, obviously your background is around the arts, and my childhood, that was what I always, everybody, including me, thought I was going to be. You know, and we all have this, certainly in the Western world at least, we have this idea of the starving artist, the struggling artist, and I've said for years that there's a piece I wrote a long time ago said that we think the world is ruled by white, silver-haired men. But the truth is the world is ruled by artists and women. And because women are mothers and they educate their children, and the artists speak about and show what others are afraid to show. You know, but at the same time, there is when we look at those two groups, you know, women certainly have been repressed, and so have artists. And this is what was appealing to me when you and I talked off air about the prospect of having you on the show about this book, was here's somebody who is elevating artists. Because as an artist, I'll tell you, I don't have any tattoos, but I admire tattoos because as an artist who's painted on canvas, if that canvas moved on me while I was doing it, I think I would be like, I'd never be able to do anything, right? So the fact that these guys can do this, guys and girls can do this amazing artwork on a moving canvas, I mean, I think that they should be honored as amazing artists. And I love that Mario and his business is actually elevating that thing, this, as you said, this back alley art to not only being respectable, but being honored.
Yeah, it was fascinating because, you know, as myself, I could relate to being a starving artist in New York City for many, many years as a director, and understanding the business side and how you sort of combine those two and sell your art is so key. And I have a sort of story in the book where he talks about how he's been able to overcome bans in certain areas and communities where they banned tattoo artists. Or the whole discipline of it. And he would go in with these oil paintings, right? It looked like an oil painting of art. And he would say, is this art? And everybody would say, yes, it is. And it turned out it was actually a tattoo that was put into a frame to make it look like an oil painting. But when you look at a talented tattoo artist's work, it could easily be hung on the walls of your house. And it is beautiful art. And if it's done safely and correctly, it's something to be very proud of. And, you know, people like the Dennis Rodmans of the world who turned the corner on that when people were hiding tattoos, and then he came out with them everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. That was another turning point in the industry. And now people are quite proud of them. And there were places in the world where tattooing is still banned, you know, where you can't get jobs if you have a tattoo. But it's a form of self-expression, like you said, it's a form of belonging, being who you are. And a lot of times tattoos are very personal things, right? Of things in your life that mean a lot to you. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty remarkable. So he's brought a lot to the world in an industry you wouldn't expect that to happen.
What was the most fascinating part of this work, of writing this book about Mario and about what he's done with the industry? What for you sort of really, you know, what was the story or the piece that just like for you was like, wow?
Yeah, I think the fact that he's become a sort of respected businessman. When you look at him, in your picture, right? He's got tattoos 75% of his body. He's got large earrings. He's got, you know, wild hair and very sort of, could look at a really rough and tumble guy, but he has an incredible heart behind him, a very emotional heart that actually tears up when he sees his artists, you know, succeed and things like that. So to see someone like that as this big sort of corporate tycoon, in any industry was really, really impressive, because when you think of a CEO of an organization, your mind would not go to him. And I'm sure if people don't know him and he walks into a restaurant, or if he walked into a boardroom, he may not initially get the respect he deserves, but he's been able to turn the corner on that. He's been able to, for this book, we have great endorsements from people like Sylvester Stallone and Tony Robbins and the head of Foxwoods and MGM Resorts. These are all people that to see him as a respected businessman in his industry. But the things he's done and the other things he's leveraged by other things that are doing in other industries, other people are looking into this industry and saying, wow, there's some things we could model in our corporate arena. So I think that was the biggest amazing thing for me, is that you take a guy that didn't fit the mold and suddenly there he is. And it just, again, it sends a great message around belonging and what you can achieve in life by who you are, versus people that are trying to change themselves to get respect. This guy is who he is. And because of who he is, he's become a huge success. And I think
that's what I was going to ask you. What is the big lesson here for leaders in any industry? What's the big lesson in Mario's story, in what he's been able to do?
Yeah,
what do you think is the thing that we all need to grasp?
Yeah, it's be yourself, be authentic. And, I think, we spoke about this before too. I mean, like on and off air, one of the most difficult things in life, as ironic as it is to be yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go around, you're influenced different ways. People are telling you to act and behave a certain way. But the fact of the matter, the true magic and secret sauce to life is the more you can be yourself and the more you can connect to who you are, the more unique you are, because everybody's unique, right? And instead of pushing it away, you need to embrace it. And so I think the biggest lesson I saw here time and time again throughout the story is the more you embrace who you are and the more you show the world who you are, the more they're going to be fascinated by you and the more success you're going to have, right? I mean, there's the seas of people, right, in this planet that maybe try to look and act all the same, but the people that stand out for who they are, because they really embrace that, those are the people that are the people that we're talking about, like the Mario Bars of the world. So yeah, that's, I think the biggest message is to every leader, be an authentic, transparent leader, be who you are. And whenever you doubt yourself, your default should be what's in your heart, and you go with that. And that's what Mario talks about all the time, trusting his gut. He got a story about, being blindfolded and then jumping off a diving board, into the abyss. You don't know, but he trusts who he is. And it's worked out for him time and time again. So,
what surprised you in working with him?
Yeah, I think his level of energy and artistic sensibility, but professionalism. So he sort of combines those two. It's very unique. It's like being an artist myself. Like I said, I've traveled in that circles and I focused entirely on the art, and I've had shows that have failed as a result of focusing on the art, and I learned the business side and sort of combine those two. But he's able to travel in a very unique place. He's really multifaceted. He has a great sense of marketing. He has a great sense of branding. He has a great sense of retail psychology and general business psychology. And he has a natural instinct for business, but yet he has this remarkable eye for art. I mean, like I said, it's $1,500 to make an appointment with him, just to make an appointment with him, and you have to wait 2 years, about 2 years waiting list to get in to get a tattoo, and then you pay obviously the additional. So when anybody has a waiting list like that and could demand those fees, they're really found their niche and what they do well, right? So he has that 100% artist, but he also has 100% marketing guy, 100% business guy. He's got it all. And that's something that's very unique, right?
Yeah, it's a very unusual combination to
it is.
That.
Absolutely.
But because he doesn't just have it, he has it at a high level on both ends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and in my circles, I find people that are really good business people. I find people that are really good creative people. And you do find them all together. But this guy, yeah, he definitely has it in spades in every angle. And he surrounds himself around people that complement his strengths, which is another key thing, and also makes up for any potential weaknesses he may have, because he understands that too. So he builds these great team of very passionate people, and his followers, the people that work for him, they love him. I mean, they absolutely love him, and they will do anything to help him succeed. So he's just built.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about about the people who are working for him, the culture that you observed. Tell us about that in the context of, like I said, you've been people who've been a tattoo artist who've been in the back alleys are suddenly working for him. Talk to us about the impact.
Yeah, so the one thing about Mario that every leader needs to take away is the element of care. Mario truly cares about all his people. And when you truly care about someone, they know it, right? And the things that he does, like again, the 401ks, the benefits, all the things he puts in is because he cares about the success and the well-being of his people. And when I walked in his studios and I felt the sense of love for him, and I spoke to people and got interviews from people within his business and just within industry in general, they told me consistently that Mario, first of all, will do anything for them, right? He's a true servant leader, right? He'll do anything for them. He's there to serve them. They know it. And subsequently, they would do anything for him, right? Because they feel it's a mutual, it's a family. And he talks about that, and everybody I spoke to talks about that too. They just feel intensely cared for. And because they're intensely cared for, the engagement is huge. And because of that engagement, they care deeply about what they do. And the client feels that, right? The client knows if they go into a shop, they're going to be well taken care of. They're going to have the best artists working for them. They're going to have artists that really care about their vision of what they want, and they're going to create that for them, right? It's going to be a safe, clean environment. Everything's very transparent. So he's created this culture of high level of transparency, high level of care, which is translated into his business results. I mean, he's actually on the verge of potentially going public as a business, which is something that just doesn't happen in the tattoo industry, right?
No.
So it's his leadership. He's at the core of this, and he's just sort of spread the love, and you just feel it when you walk in. You talk to his people. Pretty special.
Was there a story, client or staff member story that sort of stuck out to you that ended up in the book?
The majority of stories that were so personal that came up time and time again is Mario really taking people under his wing, people that maybe he had tattooed when they were really young, and they sort of fell in love with the art of tattooing, and he gave them let's say an ink set to get them going, or he brought them to a tattoo show that he was presenting at, and maybe gave him an award for what he did, for the art that those tattoo artists created. But the theme time and time again was really mentoring and coaching these younger people and being very transparent. One of the stories he spoke about is one of his early mentors, this guy, sailor Bill Johnson, who was a gentleman out of Florida, who was very transparent when he came over from Europe. In Europe, there was very closed shops, and people didn't talk about what they did. They didn't want other people to steal their clients. There was nasty things. People would firebomb other people's shops. So it was a really dangerous industry in a way.
Yeah,
when he met this gentleman, when he met this gentleman, he sat with him for several hours and just shared with him how he runs his business and how he treats his clients and how he tattoos, all this stuff. So Mario said this is quite enlightening and took it upon himself to do the same. So as I mentioned earlier in this interview about education, that's sort of the heart of Mario, and where he comes at is being open and transparent and educating the next generation of tattoo artists. And that's where his stories time and time again throughout the book talk about those type of things.
So what got him started?
Yeah, he was tattooing from the time very young in his basement in Austria, right? He was literally tattooing, and he told me fascinating stories about tattooing criminals and prison guards and gang members and all sorts of stuff. And it was illegal at the time, and he helped lobby the change to basically open the first legal tattoo store within his community through his efforts. And once he did that, he actually started getting doctors and lawyers after work that would come and be tattooed. It changed the whole dynamic. People came out of the woodwork that wouldn't have done it before. So he's been a huge sort of lobbyist for it throughout his career. But he started as he just fell in love with it very, very young. He was working with India Ink and creating his sort of makeshift tattooing tools, hooking his tattooing tools up to his battery in his motorcycle to tattoo friends on the go. so it's been in his blood, and then he ended up winning, a lot of contests, as sort of traveling around as a young tattoo artist, and then decided he wanted to shift his focus to really building a business to help other tattoo artists, and shift away from him winning awards to helping other people win awards. So huge, interesting transformation.
Fascinating. So, have you been tempted to have some more?
I have to say, I have been a little tempted. When I got mine over probably close to 30 years ago, the tattoo artist that did mine in New Rochelle, New York, basically said that I asked him if there's any danger to getting a tattoo. He said the only danger is once you get one, you want more. And I haven't really wanted more until probably fairly recently. I mean, I'm a big Harley guy. I've always ridden Harleys, and I always thought it'd be cool to have a nice one on my arm, but it would be cool someday maybe to get something by him, probably something small. We'll see.
But tattoo is a very interesting thing, and I did talk about this on a previous show where we talked about branding, and the ultimate in branding is a tattoo, because it's what, like, I remember in my 20s being pissed off at getting a branded bag. Go to a store and it's got Nike on the outside, and I was like, I'm paying for this bag and I got to walk around and advertise for you. Like it was annoying to me. But then, realizing that people have Coca-Cola and they have, Harley Davidson, and they have brands tattooed on their body. It's a fascinating intersection of business and art that's been there all the time. And it's amazing to me that, you believe in this brand so powerfully that you'd put Harley Davidson, which is, by the way, the #1 branded tattoo in the world, right? So, and I'm sure you know that. Like, to me, that is like, wow, you did a great job of branding. But what you were saying, and again, off air, you were telling me that this Harley dealership, and you mentioned it here in the show, has opened a tattoo parlor inside of the dealership. That's smart.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I was writing this book in various areas, as I was, in coffee shops here and there, which I always do. And so I was at a place, sort of an open space in Arizona. And I met this cleaner who came by. She was basically cleaning the area. And she goes, "What are you writing?" And I said, this about the tattoo industry. And she goes, "Oh, I have to show you something." So she lifted her arm, this woman named Connie, wonderful older woman that was just cleaning the facility. And she had this tattoo of this pink ribbon, and I think it had a couple birds on it, whatever. But she was a cancer survivor. She's a survivor of cancer, of breast cancer. And she got this, and her son, who happens to be also working at a prison, who's a tattoo artist at night, and did this tattoo for her on her arm as a reminder of her surviving cancer. And she was incredibly proud of it. It meant not only the fact that her son did it, but also the fact that it's that reminder of something that was so personal to her. And a lot of tattoos are like that, right? There's corporate executives. Felix Rappaport, the CEO of Foxwoods, he has numerous tattoos, and he got his first one with his daughter when I think she turned 18. We talk about it in the book, and they went together, and it was something very personal. I think if I recall, he has his names of his daughters or whatever on his body. But so tattoos can be very, very personal. In most cases, they are for people that get them, and it means a lot. And it dates back, like I said, back when we started this interview, the tribal periods where people would actually get markings to indicate what tribe they were connected to or whatever it may be. They can be very personal things.
Yeah, I think that, as you said, it can be a means of self-expression in a very meaningful way. I think that some people just have tattoos, and that's fine, but other people have them because there is a significant mark in their history that changes over to their, to be displayed on their body, and it can have a great deal of significance for them. As an immersive personality, I've always thought, I'm really glad I didn't have tattoos in my 20s, because of what I believe in my 30s was vastly different. And then my 40s, it changed again. And my 50s, it was evolved again. So, that original tattoo might have had to have a lot of work done to change it over.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. When I was getting my first one, there was a woman in there getting the name of her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend at the time, changed into something else. It was on her arm. So
exactly.
I think Johnny Depp had known a writer on hers on his arm for a while that had it changed. But anyways, yeah, I guess there's a message there, or a lesson that don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend
Well, I
tattooed on
think
your.
you've got to be certain that, I mean, I think that if it's a meaning based, you've got to be certain that this thing. I mean, my sons both have tattoos, and when we talked about it, I said, if you want to have a tattoo, it's fine, but for God's sake, make it meaningful to you. I don't know what the meaning is, but whatever it is to you, and the question to ask is, will it have meaning in 10 years or 20 years or whatever it is? Because I mean, I know now we can remove tattoos, but it's still, it's work, it's time, it's energy, it's focus, it's money, it's all those things. It's a very fascinating industry. When you, like I said, you got involved in this, you got asked to write an article that's evolved into a book. How has it changed you? I mean, I think that I know for me that when I write a book, I've said for years, going for a goal, the purpose of a goal is not to reach the goal, but for how it changes you in the process of reaching the goal. And I think that something happens in the process of writing a book in that way. Do you feel like writing this book shifted you, changed you at all as a human being?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every time I write about great people like Mario and great leaders, it just reaffirms that mentality. I always coached on this, is that you can achieve anything if you really, you leverage your strengths and what you're best at, and you really, you're resilient, right? And you go forward and you continue to, regardless of how many times you get knocked down, you get back up. And this story refreshed that for me, because like I said, he went through some huge ups and downs and fought industry norms and things, but he never ever gave up on what he really believes in. And so as I've been writing this book, it's reaffirming that for me, is just don't give up on what you really believe in, what you really want, and continue to fight and continue to stay focused. And if you know your purpose, just hang on to that with everything you got and continue to persevere, and you could win. And he's another example of someone who's done it at all odds. So yeah, it definitely has added an element, another notch to my belt in my beliefs as a leader, and what's important and what's not.
Yeah. So as we come to the end of the show, what is the one thing that you want our listeners, our viewers, to get out of this? What is the practical thing that you would like them to really learn from your experience of working with Mario, with writing the book, and all the things that you've learned?
Yeah, I think it's the self-reflection and taking a time. I think I would tell everybody, and we spoke about this before too, I'd say everybody to take some time to really self-reflect, understand who you are as a person, what you want, what you're passionate about, why you're put on this planet. Most people, they're on a treadmill in life and they're running and running and running, and you just don't stop for a moment. But I think the best gift you can give yourself in life, and this Mara Barth book is an example, everything else I've written in the past is an example of people who have taken a moment in their life, even if it's 10 minutes, it's a great gift. And think about who you are, what you want, what you stand for, and then put together a plan on the back end to help you get there. Because again, if anything would illustrate what Mario Barth done is, no matter what you're passionate about or interested in, you can do great things in that space. But it does take you understanding who you are and what's really important, because it's a lot of work. And any transformation is an enormous amount of self connection, right? You have to put yourself into it 110%. So if you have to do something like that, you need to believe in it. It has to be in your heart and your head and your hands, right? It needs to be entirely connected. So I would just say that would be the best takeaway I could say to anybody listening to this is after you're done listening to this, take 10 minutes, think about your life. And then once you have that, once you know where you want to go, put together a plan to help you achieve it, and take it in baby steps, right? When you want to make a big transformation like what Mara has done in industry, it doesn't happen overnight, and it can be daunting and overwhelming to think of where you are and where you want to get to. But the way every transformation happens is it's broken down to baby steps, right? You don't eat an elephant in one bite, right? You take little bits at time, and at the end of the day, you get there. But you need to have a roadmap. You need to understand where you want to go, and then where you want to get to, and then a plan right in between. And that's what I would tell everybody listening is to do that.
So in the context of you, the author, I mean, you've transformed from who you were. We talked about in a previous show, we talked about your creative background. what do you think moved you from being purely the artist to being much more purely, not entirely, but much more purely business focused?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I think I spoke about this before to you maybe at some point, but when I was in the arts and I was producing and directing and managing over New York City theater, after 8 years of it, I figured I needed to learn business. And so I actually I initially went into the corporate world just to learn how to run big business. And my goal was to translate it back into
Mm-hmm.
the arts. And I turned out I had this amazing roller coaster career and had a lot of great opportunities. And I really love business as much as I love art, I found out. And I
Mm-hmm.
really, more than anything, I love understanding how people fit into a business to make it great. And so my career just sort of naturally sort of evolved, I think, based on that focus of purpose. Is, in my passion, in my blood, I love helping people. I really do. It's part of who I am. And my purpose has always been to enlighten, inspire, and teach. That's really when I look at my through line, that's where it is.
Right.
So I found myself in a situation where understanding business, understanding art, understanding dynamics of people, how it all fits together. And as a theatrical director, I was doing that at my core, right? I was finding actors that fit into the right roles and to create, an engaging piece of art to sell a theater ticket. And so I've always had it sort of in me, but I think now with my connection and all so many years in the business world, I see how the whole picture fits together and I love it all. And so that's how I sort of balance. And I have a still chance to dabble in my art, which I love, but I understand how to do it better from a business perspective.
So, what is it that you find yourself obsessed with these days?
Yeah, I think obsessed with, I think going back to that, really helping people. I'm obsessed with trying to help as many people as I possibly can understand this concept of living a better life, because just like I spoke about Mario, it pains him when people are not in a good place. And it's pained me for decades now that the statistics show that 80% of people in their life they're unhappy with what they do, right, in their work. And you spend majority of your life doing that. And I've been very blessed to be around family members and my father, my grandfather, and people that did things that they really, really loved. And I want to give that gift to the world. So I think my legacy, that's where I want to leave. I want to leave my legacy around that. So I'm obsessed with trying to broaden my scope as much as I possibly can to get out to more people and spread the gospel around this. And I think that's where my obsession falls these days.
And what would you say is the thing that you bang up against as a in your own growth, in your own development? What is the thing that you find yourself sometimes struggling with to push through?
Yeah, it's time management. I gotta tell you, I have big aspirations. I always have, and I see the world in a very idealistic sense. I've always been a very positive, positive person, and so I'm trying to always do a lot and trying to balance. Most important thing in my life is my family and my wife and my two girls. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. Little girls are all love of my life, my family, and so trying to make sure I balance my gift I want to give to the world with the gift I give to my family every day, and that's always a constant. I have to always just remind myself to get that balance, and as much as I can involve them in my life and they involve me in their lives, it works. But that's probably the biggest challenge I have a lot of balls in the air.
Yes, I understand. Well, Louis, as always, it's been a pleasure and honor having you, my friend. Thank you so much. Please tell our audience, our listeners, our viewers, where they can find out more about you, where they can find out more about this new book. And of course, remembering that by the time this comes out, the book will be on the shelves. So please tell us where you can find out more about you, more about the book, and all the resources that you offer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dob. Thanks again for having me on the show. I really, really appreciate it. And you can find me at louisefron.com. You can find me at purposemeetsexecution.com. You could find me on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, online, all those areas with all my books. And you can also find me on Forbes. I have tons of articles. I've been writing for about 6 years on Forbes as a contributor. Find me at Huffington Post. Just search my name in there. I've in publications all over the world, and I'm out there. So I always link in with me as well, because I love to meet new people, and I encourage you to link into me as well.
Thank you, sir. I hope you'll stay with us to the end. I want to thank you for joining us today. Listeners, dear viewers, it was great having Louis here. And again, as I said, he's a returning champ. So always great stuff from Louis, particularly around purpose. And you get to see that purpose goes deep. It's not just limited to rigid business in the way that we think it, that it actually can be brought into absolutely any business when you're driven by something bigger than yourself. And remember, the research consistently shows that one of the biggest challenges facing even the most successful companies can be somewhat counterintuitive, in that these fast-growing companies often hit a point where they realize they're spending a fortune attracting, training, and developing talent, but also having them leave them at an alarming rate. If you're sick of investing in training and developing your talent, only have them leave you before you've got your ROI, then come talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com, where we provide you with the essential leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into purpose. fullmontyleadership.com, providing you the concrete soft skills to get you and your organization to the top and keep you there. Why? Because you can't outsource authenticity. Remember to also stop by the Matrix at matrix.fullmontyleadership.com. You don't need a www. Just matrix.fullmontyleadership.com and get your authentic leadership matrix self-assessment tool. It's valued at $197. It's absolutely free to you for being a valued listener and viewer of our show. Remember, you can also catch us on Alexa, on Amazon, by simply saying play Dov Baron podcast. Thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. Till next time, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about how the thing that is not transparent can be made transparent, and it will create greater loyalty by connecting that thing to your purpose. I wonder what waits on the other side. I'm Dov Baron. I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, profit in your business, your leadership, and your life impact. This is Dov Baron, and I am out.